2,000 Palestinian and Israeli feminists gathered. They walked together, demanding to end the cycle of bloodshed and a non-violent resolution to the conflict. These brave women did not make it on the news. 3 days later, Hamas committed the bloodiest attack on Israeli civilians, and then the IDF started to respond with the most devastating collective punishment of Palestinian civilians. Women are disproportionately affected by war and occupation because of the structural gender discrimination and gender-based violence. In conflict and war settings, rape and sexual violence are used strategically and systematically as a tool of war and ethnic cleansing. The practices of Israeli government, such as home demolitions, restrictions of movement, checkpoints, night raids, increase the burdens of family, which reinforces the woman's traditional roles within the patriarchal society. Living under the rule of radical Islamist Hamas, 72% of women in Gaza are unemployed. By law, women are assumed to be under the protection and guardianship of men. Currently, according to UN, 50,000 women in Gaza are pregnant, with 5,500 expected to deliver in the next month. Women living in Gaza, therefore, have urgent needs and vulnerabilities, especially now in the war. Although the conditions are not exactly parallel, feminists in both Israel and Palestine are under attack by their male-dominated governors and societies. Netanyahu and his coalition is the most radically nationalist and religious government in Israel's history. Only 9 of 64 positions in the Netanyahu administration are occupied by women. Women and LGBTQ+ rights have been targeted constantly. The efforts to replace the Supreme Court with the rabbinic courts and transform Israel into a theocracy is a big concern, especially for the women and queer community. Meanwhile, in Gaza and the West Bank, radical Islamists, including Hamas, are growing increasingly repressive and aggressive. Campaigns against child marriage and gender-based violence and for safe abortion, gender equality within the marriage, LGBTQ rights are denounced as corrupting foreign agendas in violation of Sharia law. Attacks on feminists, journalists, LGBTQ people, and human rights advocates are constant and sometimes fatal. These are not just acts of rogue terrorists. The Ministry of Education in the West Bank, for instance, is cracking down on women's studies and eliminating many secular rights-based programs in public schools. Religious fundamentalists on both sides accuse feminists of causing chaos by standing against gender roles and the patriarchy. They condemned feminist human rights activists and peace activists for muddying the lines of the battle of men by insisting on the equal value of every life and coexistence. They are definitely right with these accusers. We, as Palestinian and Israeli feminists in Palestine, in Israel, and in diaspora, have always been and will always be rejecting male domination, Israeli occupation, Hamas oppression, religious fundamentalist governments and administrations, and rejecting to be enemies. To prevent war is to fight male power and to recognize and act against the basic principle operating in all domains of patriarchal capitalist society. We are here to reclaim our spaces that have been taken from us by the patriarchy. We are here to mourn the death of our sisters and queer siblings, but also to celebrate their lives and power. We are gathered here to show kindness to each other and feminist support. and Jews for Peace, we have been attacked by Nazis, but also people who consider themselves left. It is a threat to fascism and the war industrial complex when Palestinians and Jews unite. It is a threat to patriarchy and fascism when young women, trans and non-binary speak out in public and are successful in uniting crowds and bringing together people, sharing hope and bringing back a culture of dialogue and constructive feedback. So let's continue showing support to each other and take back the public space, the political space, and the nights.